All right. Hello, guys. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Best Places to Live Real Estate Podcast. Today, my guest is Billie Parrott. She is from Billings, Montana. And I invited her on the show today because Billings, Montana has ranked on a particular list that has caught my attention. And it's a list that the Wall Street Journal and Realtor.com collaborated on, and it is the number one city in the United States, according to this article, as being an emerging market. So I'll put the link to the article below, but basically Realtor.com and Wall Street Journal said it's sort of a unkept secret or an unknown secret. I guess the word is getting out. People have finally discovered Billings, Montana. It's kind of recently become on the map. And Billie's going to tell us all about it. But I think part of it is because of the pandemic, people are thinking of perhaps an area that they want to live in that's not necessarily tethered to a job anymore. So if you have freedom to move, people are looking at all kinds of places, and Billings, Montana has made it on the list. So thank you for coming on the show, Billie. How are you today?
Good. How are you? Thank you for having me. We were pretty excited when we saw that article here in Billings. We're like, wow, really? We didn't even know that. so we, it's been circulating quite a bit on our social media, but yeah, it's pretty awesome. My name is Billie Parrott, and I am a real estate broker here. I've been doing this for 13 years, and I'm known as Billie in B-Town because Billings is also known as B-Town. And I basically just put out there, what we do in Billings, and I think it's a great city. I love it. So I'm glad that it's on the map finally.
Yeah. So tell us about your Billings journey. Were you born there, or did you choose to move there?
How much time do you have? No. Actually, I grew up a Navy brat. So I moved here in 1992. I've actually lived in Hawaii, Virginia, Illinois, and we were living in Chicago at the time. And my dad, he got new orders, and they said, you can move anywhere internationally, United States. And they saw a postcard of Montana. And of course, the postcard they had was the beautiful mountains, the prairies. And they're like, that's where we're moving to. Didn't know a soul in Montana, didn't have family. And we packed up the car and drove in a car with no air conditioning across country. And we were actually supposed to move to a city called Great Falls. My mom got sick, so we landed in Billings, and the rest is history. So I've been here since 1992.
Wow, awesome. I love the background. And I will tell you that postcard or picture that your dad saw, it has certainly caught my attention more than once as well. And maybe it's the pandemic, but Montana is super high on my radar right now. I've always liked Colorado just because it's dry and mountains, but Montana has a special draw. So I'm excited to get to know the area more, and I'll have to come visit you.
For sure.
I have a family member who recently bought in Montana, and she's living 6 months out of the year there. And I have a realtor friend who lives here in California and also bought in Montana, who's also doing about 6 months a year. Even though winters are supposedly tough there, they actually like the winters quite a bit because of just the snow activities that you get to do. So I think it's different if you're getting to play in the snow as opposed to kind of dragging through the snow to get to a job. That makes it a little more challenging, but snow could be a lot of fun too.
Yeah, we do have 2 ski towns pretty close by to Billings. Actually, we have Red Lodge Mountain, which is only an hour drive, and then Big Sky Mountain, which is about a couple hour drive. But yeah, there's a lot of different snow activities that you can do. You can do cross country skiing. You can ski. It's big for us here.
So let's talk about the geography a little bit more. So are you in a valley? Do you happen to know the elevation? And also, in terms of Billings, is that like the biggest city in Montana, or what? If not, what is the biggest metro area that will be close to?
Yep. So Billings is the biggest city in Montana. It's not the capital. Helen is the capital, but we are the biggest city. We actually have the international airport here in Billings. As far as elevation, I think we're around 3,000. And it's interesting how Billings is laid out. We are a valley, and we have what they call the rim rocks. You can't see it in the picture behind me, but it's sand. It's like basically a sandstone wall, and their theory is that used to be water. So the valley where Billings is was water there at one time. And up top, on top of the rims, was where the beach was. And you can find like seashells. And I mean, they found dinosaur bones and things like that. So it's kind of an interesting history to think, this used to be water at some point in time. Yeah.
How cool. Yeah, I think our brains can't always comprehend like how long the planet's been around. I did an interview recently with a guy from Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, and he told me that the glaciers actually at one point passed through that area. And I'm like, what? I can't even picture it.
Oh, wow.
I think the Earth is older than sometimes we realize.
Yes, I agree.
So today we're talking about Billings. Can you describe, are we talking about Billings proper or sort of the overall, I guess, is there suburbs included? Is it all one county, one zip code, one city? What are we talking about today?
So Billings is located within Yellowstone County, and Yellowstone County includes, so we have little outlining areas like Shepherd, Roundup. I'm sorry, not Roundup. Roundup is Muscle Shell. There's Shepherd, Huntley. There is Park City, Laurel, and those are kind of like outlining areas, a little bit more rural than Billings. So when I talk about the city, I do include a lot of Yellowstone County as a whole.
Okay, got it. Well, it is a real estate show, so we do have to talk about real estate prices. The National Association of Realtors says the median around the country is about 360 right now. How does that compare to your market? What does real estate pricing look like?
So as of July, our median sales price is 338. Last year it was 294. So we've gone up quite substantially over the last year. And we have a lot of single family homes. We also have townhomes, condos. We have, a rental market here that is crazy. It's hard to find a rental right now. It's blowing up.
Yeah. So I don't think we mentioned it on the recording, but you had told me the population. Can you, I guess, repeat that? I'm not sure if we covered that yet.
Sure. So Yellowstone County, we're at about 161,000, and then Billings proper around 109,000.
Okay, got it. So about 100,000 is, I believe, considered a medium-sized town. I think anything less than 100,000 is a small town. 100 to 300,000 is medium size, and over 300 is a large city. So you're kind of right in the medium size range. I don't imagine that your downtown has high rises. Is it kind of sprawling? You did say you have condos and townhomes, but does that mean there's sort of a city center or a downtown?
Yeah, we do have a downtown. We have, I think, 3 skyscrapers. They're not very tall when you compare it to New York or even Denver. But we do have a downtown that it's starting to get its life back. We did kind of sprawl out more west with shopping and things like that. But there's a group of people in downtown that are really trying to get our downtown live again, which has been awesome. So a lot of new businesses, small businesses are opening up downtown again.
And how is the real estate market? You mentioned the prices are rising, but how about the inventory? Are you guys seeing the multiple offers, fast days on market?
Oh yeah. So right now our average days on market is 20. I remember the days when it was 60. So now we're down to 20. We are seeing multiple offers. Pretty much any property that comes on the market, as long as it's priced, reasonably, we're seeing, 10 to 20 offers on it. I've heard even an offer 80,000 over ask. I mean, it's insane. So I've never seen it like this before in my 13 years. So it's definitely an eye opener, and things seem to be appraising just fine as well. So people are kind of concerned, well, are we going to have a crash? No, I don't see that at all. We might end up getting a little bit stable, but I don't see our values going down at all. I think they're just going to continue to rise.
Yeah, good to know. So you mentioned that, or maybe the Realtor.com article was the one that mentioned it. I think you said it as well, but I saw in the article that it said Californians are moving there, Texans are moving there, and I believe said Kentucky as well. So you have different people coming there for different reasons. Why do you think people are moving there and choose to live there? And what are the demographics? Are you seeing kind of the retirees come in, the young professionals come in? Who is moving there?
My experience, what I'm seeing is a lot of professionals being relocated here. We have 2 huge oil refineries, and there's a lot of relocation back and forth, Texas and California. I just recently sold to a couple of Californian buyers that came here because of a job for education or the medical field.
Okay, got it. And jumping back to the real estate, can you tell us about the homes in the neighborhoods? Is there any one neighborhood that maybe comes to mind when people move to your area that they want to gravitate towards?
I think it just depends on the buyer and what they're looking for. But in this particular case with my California buyers that I met on Instagram, they really wanted historic. So we have a nice historic district that's close to downtown, homes that have been here since the early 1900s. I mean, and they have so much history and character. And it's all kind of around the Moss Mansion, which was a family that came here in the 1800s, I believe. And it still stands there today. You can actually go tour it, and it's an actual house. It's the mansion. It's the biggest house in Billings. But yeah, so I think it just all depends on what they're looking for. If they want to be more on the outskirts and have more of a rural life, maybe they're coming from a bigger city and they want, they want to be off the grid basically. And they want a little bit of land. So it just all depends on what the particular buyer is looking for.
Yeah, so when I think of Montana, I always think of horse property. I don't know if I dreamt that up or where I got that from, but is that a thing? I always picture like cowboys and big ranches.
Oh, yeah. For sure. So you'll see that more on the outlining areas like Shepherd, Huntley, Warden, Laurel Park City, where there will be little small pockets of horse properties, ranches. You're going to probably see the bigger ranches more toward, going west in Montana. But yeah, we do have that. A lot of horses.
Anything to note about the real estate fees, property taxes, homeowners insurance, or HOA fees? Anything unusual or we should know of?
I wouldn't say anything unusual. Our property taxes are pretty reasonable. I've been here. I talked to a couple of people in New York and other states, and it seems like our property taxes are pretty reasonable. We don't have a sales tax. So for us, it's like, oh my gosh, our property taxes keep going up every 2 years. But we don't have a sales tax. But when you compare it to other states, it's not that bad. I hear like New York, your property tax could be like $30,000 for the year, which is crazy to me. So like I would say for my house in particular, I pay about $2,000 a year in property taxes. So it's very, very minimum.
Yep. And you touched on it a little bit, but maybe we can talk a little bit more about it. But the economy, the city is growing. So what can you tell us about your major employers or industries? You mentioned the 2 oil refineries. Anything else that we should know of as far as the population growth or just the economic growth?
Mm-hmm. So Billings basically started as a railroad town. In fact, my husband's great grandpa came all the way here from Mexico because of the railroad. So we have the railroad that runs through our town. But yeah, we've got the oil refineries. Education is huge. We've got 5 colleges here in Billings. The medical field has been a big one for us, getting a lot of people relocating because of the medical field. We have 2 major big hospitals here in Billings too. So I think our population has grown 5.7% in the last 10 years. And our unemployment rate is super low. It's like at 3%.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, it seems to me like it's just a healthy growth. Some cities have exploded and then they can't deal with the traffic and sort of the infrastructure, but it seems like you're growing at a healthy, nice pace. Actually, since I asked about that, is there anything we should know about traffic? I don't imagine that you'd have like sort of a downtown LA traffic issue, but anything we should know?
So you would definitely probably want to have a car here in Billings. I mean, we do have the bus transportation system, but pretty much anywhere it takes about 15 to 18 minutes to get to. Even we've got what we call the Heights. It's kind of I don't know if you call it a suburb of Billings, but it's an area of town. It takes about 20 minutes to get there. So everything's about 15, 20 minutes. Pretty easy, hop in a car and get there. A lot of walking. I see a lot of people bicycling, even roller skating. So we have a great trail system. In fact, we have they call it the marathon loop that is 26 miles that you can get on and go around the whole city of Billings, which is pretty cool.
All right, awesome. So thank you for sharing that. And can you tell me a little bit more about the recreation and the entertainment? What would you guys do if you moved there, maybe for a typical weekend? I imagine there's a lot of outdoor activities, but any museums, concerts, I don't know, anything that you guys do for fun? What can you tell us?
Yeah, so actually coming up this week, we have what they call the Brews Fest that we have every year. It's the Blues Brews Fest, and they bring in blues, what would you call it? Like blues musicians, and it's a huge weekend thing, and it happens downtown, and it's a blast. We have a lot of local musicians that put on shows here and there. Our brewery, our beers, our microbrews are probably the best in the nation. I'm going to just say that right now. In fact, one of our breweries won a couple of awards recently for their brews. So microbrews are huge here in Billings, as well as ciders. So just going out to the cider mill or one of the local breweries is pretty fun. We also have the Billings Mustangs, which is a baseball team here. A lot of people go there during the week and go catch a game, which is really nice. Hiking is huge. Like again, an hour away is Red Lodge. There's a lot of hiking on the Beartooth Mountains that you could do, fishing, kayaking, paddleboarding. I mean, just like you said, a lot of outdoor activities. Yeah, just getting out there.
I love it. How about restaurants? Any good restaurants?
Oh boy. How do I just pick one? Yeah, in fact, our downtown has a lot of good local restaurants. Like the Montana Brewing Company is really good, and they make their own brews and have awesome like bar type food. Stacked. There's a brewery that just opened up last year called Bam Brewery. They have great food. They're more on the West End, and also they have their own microbrews. So a lot of the good restaurants have their own brews, which is a nice 2-4.
Very cool. Well, we do have to talk about the weather. It seems to me that you're far north, so you could be potentially a cold place. What can you tell us about the weather?
Well, lately we've been unseasonably hot. You would think that we were Arizona right now. On the last 2 or 3 weeks, we've been in the hundreds constantly every day, and we're not used to that. Typically, we're 80s, 90s during the summer. We do have 4 seasons, which kind of seems like fall's going away for some reason. It seems like it's going from summer right into winter here in the last couple of years. But yeah, we do have 4 seasons. Our winters are cold. I will tell you, in fact, my California buyer, they end up buying a pickup truck after the first winter here because our snow gets a little bit deep, and having a 4-wheel drive is definitely important here in Billings, getting around. But yeah, but we actually do receive less snow than Denver, which was surprising to me to see that. But yeah, it gets pretty cold. It very extreme weather, I would say lately.
It is a dry cold, which to me makes things a lot nicer.
Yes.
It's almost like too dry, right? You have to be, I guess, conscientious and wear your lotion. And I mean, because when I visit Colorado, I usually get nosebleeds and my skin's all dry, and I'm just not used to it because I live a few minutes from the beach. So it's very moist here.
Yes, it is dry here. In fact, a lot of people have humidifiers hooked onto their furnace during the wintertime because it does get really dry. In fact, it's funny because when I go to visit my daughter in like Chicago, it's super humid there and my hair just goes flat. And I'm like, what is happening? I'm not used to that. But yeah, it's pretty dry here.
Yeah, no humidity means no bugs. So
Yep.
or I guess less bugs. I don't know.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
so tell me too about investing in your area. It is known to be a good place to invest in, according to this recent article. Do you think if maybe I or somebody like me bought investment property there, would you try to lease it out on a yearly basis, or would you try to flip something, maybe at Airbnb? What can you tell us about investing?
I would say as far as flipping, that's probably not so much in the cards as maybe as it was a couple of years ago, just because how the real estate market is. But definitely as far as buying for investment, as far as rentals, that would be huge right now because again, we have a shortage of housing in Billings, Montana. So it definitely would not be hard to rent out for a good amount, each month. I would say, yeah, if you did like a 6 month to a year lease. As far as Airbnbs, I did have a couple investors that I've been working with recently that they have those. There's some legislation going on. I should have updated that to see where they're at with that. They were thinking about getting rid of Airbnbs and not allowing that anymore. So I'm not sure where that's at. I'd have to update you on that. But they have 3 and they do really well. And they'll rent them out for like a week, 2 weeks. And they usually rent them out to people coming in for the medical field. And they're just here, they're, I think they call it a floater, where they just come here for a couple of weeks work and then take off to the next town. So that's kind of huge. But as far as like renting it out for like a resort, you would probably be looking more in like the Red Lodge area because it is closer to the ski mountain. But here in Billings would be more for people coming in just for work, just needing a place to stay for a little bit and then taking off.
Yeah. Well, I do have 3 final questions for you in the show. But before I get to the final 3, I do want to give you the opportunity to give your contact information. If someone does want to explore buying real estate with you, how should they reach you?
You can find me on all social media outlets. If you just Google Billie Parrott or Billie in B-Town, I'll come right up. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, LinkedIn. So if you Google Billie in B-Town, I'll come right up.
Yeah, that's excellent marketing, by the way, too, because it's easy to remember. And if you are listening to the podcast as opposed to watching us on YouTube or Facebook right now, Billie is Billie. I'll put her contact information in the show notes as well. All right.
Thank you.
So my final 3 questions. I have my first question is, do you have one tip or thing that an out of area home buyer should know but often does not know when they are moving there?
I would say, especially if they're moving here from like a warmer climate like California, kind of what we talked about earlier, maybe think about getting a 4-wheel drive or definitely getting some snow shovels and some warm weather gear. That would probably be the biggest.
Yep. And my second question is, if you have a deal of the day, this is an actual listing that you know of, maybe something that's available for sale or a recent sale, but just some piece of real estate that you can highlight, maybe something you can sell right here on the show.
Sure. So we were kind of talking about that earlier. It's already sold, but it was kind of a huge thing in our market. It was a huge castle house that somebody had built here in town. They never lived in it, but it sold for $16 million. It had a bowling alley, it had a pool, it had a golf. It had pretty much a movie theater inside. It was humongous. 16 million, and that's probably maybe the highest price piece of real estate in Billings that has sold recently. So that's pretty interesting.
Seller never moved into the property; they just built it and sold it.
Yeah, so there was some legal issues in the background there, but yeah, so they weren't able to actually enjoy the house. Let's just put it that way.
Interesting. Well, thank you for sharing that. That is a notable sale, so it's good to know that one. And my final question is, if someone were going to come visit you, and that someone is very likely to be me, and want to explore the area for the weekend, can you give us a few tips on something we should see or do while we're in the area? Maybe a hotel to stay in. I already know I'm going to the breweries when I get there. Anything else I should do while I'm there?
I would definitely say, depending on how long you're going to be here for, go to Yellowstone National Park and check that out. It's only, I think it's about a 2-hour drive to the Gateway. But it's so beautiful and there's so much to see. And I would just say, if you at least have a couple of days extra, I would definitely do that. And I would say tour the Moss Mansion. It's got so much history and story behind the family that built that house, and gives you a lot of history on Billings too. So I would definitely say that. Stop by the Moss Mansion.
That's right there in downtown Billings?
Correct. Yep.
Awesome.
And then you can walk down to the local brewery. You could just walk there and have a beer after.
Again to me. Awesome. Well, I really appreciate you coming on the show, and I think you'll get some business from it. If it's not me personally, it'll be someone else out there watching or listening. So thanks again for coming on.
I appreciate you having me on. Thank you.